Have you ever wondered if your brain can stop, find peace? Maybe you can, and here is one way. Today I have with me Susie Malseed from Australia down under. She's a mom, a mental health researcher, a farmer, a wife, a freediver, and oh yeah, most likely ADHD living in Australia. So Susie, welcome on the podcast.
Thank you. It's nice to
Um,
be here on here.
yes, we've had many chats since this recording in between. Not too sure when we started, but it does feel like we've known each other for years, honestly, we've discussed. But you were on Peter Shankman's podcast called Faster Than Normal, and then you talked about freediving and how it was a method to find mindfulness and escape your brain and the world. What intrigued me about the conversation was that you said you enjoyed the free fall portion of the free dive because at that depth, you can feel the water pressure on your body and it was comforting. And at that time, I finished my scuba diving certification with my oldest daughter. And what you said actually made sense to me and finally put things into words for me because I find that comforting. And I think, and you said that as an ADHD comfort thing to do. And I wanted to bring more of this conversation to the table for the listeners. So can you just describe to me what is free diving as compared to scuba diving and why do you like it so much?
Yep, perfect. So I think I'm probably a good person to try and give that description because I used to scuba dive as well. So I do understand both. And I love both. They're both great for different but similar reasons. So we have an analogy in freediving that scuba divers go down to look around. You know, we go down to when we scuba, we look to see what's down there. We say then with freediving, we go down to look inside ourselves. And that's, I think, the most profound difference between freediving and scuba diving. So we, of course, are interested when we're under the water about what's around us. But to do deep free dives or competitive free diving, you actually switch off everything that is around you. And it's a very, very deep internal meditation. And if you don't know how to access that place, you won't be able to be a good, safe, deep free diver. So it forces you, if you want to do the sport, to build those skills. And that those skills then are very, 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 very helpful for us that can't stop our brains and our bodies. We're very active. That's like just a gift because you take it from freediving into your life and there's a lot of crossover benefits.
So the big difference for the listeners, scuba diving is you got a tank on your back. You can go down to any depth and breathe. Freediving is you hold your breath at the surface and you go down underwater with no tank, no regulator, and it's that one breath. And you go down to certain depths. Is that correct?
100%. Even just that analogy there, with the regulator. We learn to self-regulate. You see, that's it. We learn to self-regulate because we don't have a regulator. We don't have a BCD. We don't have a buoyancy control device. We don't have an air tank. So when people go, where's your tank? I'm like, here's my tank. So my lungs are my tank. Where's your buoyancy control device? Well, we can control our buoyancy. And regulate it. It is interesting, that analogy. But
okay,
exactly
so then
right.
What are you regulating specifically as you free dive?
Most of all, the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, what we were always told that we can't regulate is the body. So freedivers are now being studied for people that are known to be able to lower their heart rate and to control the autonomic nervous system. So in science and in medicine and health, there was always the literature that those things could not be controlled. And freedivers have known for a very, very long time that those things can be controlled. And so have yogis and martial artists, anyone in that field, I consider them similar fields, know that you can control those things. You can control your response.
Right. Yeah.
So with ADHD, we're always growing up, like I've always grown up to feel like I couldn't control my response. I couldn't control my actions. And then what freediving taught me is I can control it, but it's about
Interesting.
environment. Yeah.
Right.
So it's very powerful.
Right. And I never thought about the martial arts and, like you said, the yogi. It really
Mm,
comes down to mindfulness, because mindfulness is being extremely present in the now, right? And for
yeah.
freediving, you better be present
Yeah.
and
There's no
concentrate.
choice.
Yeah, you're not no choice. Yeah. So can you give me some ideas? Like you said that we're self-regulating the mind and body, almost to a point that is it mind control or mind? Like that's what really intrigues me, because I heard on an interview it said that to hold your breath underwater for a long period of time, it's all mental. It's
Yeah.
convincing your body and your brain not to freak out because you don't need to breathe yet.
Exactly. Yeah. So when I'm a bit of an OG freediver. So like I learned to freedive 25 years ago when freediving was
Not
much less
possible.
of a thing than it is now. So
Yeah.
you know, the journey was very pioneer. It felt like a real pioneering type thing to do, which really excited me. And I learned in New Zealand. I'm a Kiwi living in Australia, so I learned in New Zealand with a other group of very hardy, wonderful, passionate type people. And we taught each other and we taught ourselves. So the biggest thing with freediving is always, and this is probably one of the biggest takeaways: safety, safety, safety.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, yeah, I do not recommend anyone teach themselves. I didn't teach myself, and I always have safety, and that's super important because there are a number of deaths in freediving by people that usually, sometimes they are top freedivers. That does happen. But usually they are people that have heard about freediving and they come to it from other sports. So they actually have this, they've already taught their body, their mind, how to override their body. They've already learned that. So all elite athletes from whatever school of life you come from have already taught themselves to override their body. They know that, right?
Mm.
So the top swimmers, for example, they're not holding their breath, but they've already taught themselves to go way beyond the pain barrier.
Oh.
Yeah. And that's what freediving is. So, but I don't work with pain, I work with pleasure, but that is what it is. So you start to learn from a human potential aspect. You know, when you first hop in, and it doesn't even need to be in, when you do a freediving course and they take you to the pool, they start you in the pool, they don't just throw you in the ocean. And they start with this general, okay, we've all tried, holding our breath when we're kids on the floor out of the water. How long do we think that we can hold our breath? And people sort of say, oh, geez, 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And then after a 2-day freediving course, everyone can hold their breath for, well, definitely 2 minutes. And there'll be some people within the group that can get to 4 minutes on
Wow.
their first 2 days. So what you've then taught yourself is all my beliefs, everything I thought about what was possible has now been smashed. And I have this just, this whole big world in front of me. Well, what else? What else is possible? And you start to learn, okay, the first time your body. So when I swim in a pool, my original records in a pool were, just to give a bit of context, because a lot of people don't understand depth because of the pressure.
Yeah.
We start in the pool, and a lot more people can relate to the pool. So in a pool, I had the New Zealand record, actually it still stands, 200 meters in a pool without breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we can all picture a 25-meter pool, that's 8 laps.
Yeah.
50-meter pool, 4 laps. So that's to give you perspective. Okay, so when you're doing that swim, if you start that swim by thinking on your first 10 meters, 190 meters to go, and then when you get to 20 meters, 180 meters to go, if you use your brain in that way, you will never, ever, ever make it.
Oh,
No matter.
whoa, wow. That's huge. I don't even know where you're going, but it's already making sense. Keep going. So now you're counting down from 200, basically.
Yeah, no, I'm saying you do not do that.
Right.
Do not do
Exactly.
that. So you have to, but that's how most people approach it.
Yeah.
That's how they approach everything in life. They say we always talk, keep your eye on the prize, have the end goal, but then what we're doing is we're tormenting ourselves along the way, so we don't enjoy the journey. Our body's in a state of stress, and then we're more than likely going to fail or give up because we've made it so hard for ourselves.
Right.
So freediving taught me, and I'm very, you know, in my head, like that's how I've approached everything in my life, is like a fighter. Just,
Yeah.
you know, give me a goal, I'm going to go out there and smash it. That's how I approached it from the start, because that's how I approached everything else in my life. And then freediving has just flipped everything on its head for me. And that's what I try and tell other freedivers who come in new. I just say, they say, how do I, you know, where do you recommend I start? And I always push them back, and nobody wants to because it's hard. So
Yeah.
go to yoga, go to meditation, or go to martial arts. Any of those, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, some people sort of say, oh, yoga's a bit too far out. Okay, well, go to martial arts. But that's where you start. So if I just use my 200-meter swim as an analogy, at about 50 meters, which is 25% of my potential, my body will start going, oh, are you sure about this? And then your mind starts going, oh, this sucks. And that's the start of the mental battle. And so you've got to play with that. You've got to learn to make it fun. Because if you can't make it fun,
Learn to
it's
make it
just too
fun.
hard. Yeah, you have to make it fun. And not like in a you know, not like in a misogynistic type, what's the
Yeah.
word, you know,
Yeah.
self-flagellation. No, I'm not talking that. I'm talking about find a way to make it fun. And I found that in life too, because freediving's taught me that. If you could, we can do hard things, right? We know how to, anyone with an ADHD brain, we've grown up knowing how to do hard things.
At our
And we can
cost,
do
at our expense. Yeah.
yes, at our expense. And so with freediving, I feel like a kid playing, because I've learned how to do something which everyone else thinks is super hard. But literally, it's playing. Like when I have a week off work and I book a week off work, I go and freedive for play. It's what fills me up.
Right. Wow. Yeah. So I like how you reframed it. When you get to 50 meters, that's 25% of your potential, not of the finish line. Like, I think that's a huge mindset shift there. So
Exactly.
200 meters is your full potential, and you're only at 25%, and you still got more to go. And can you explain a little more about this? Learn to make it fun, because at the 25% mark, 50 meters, you said that's your brain actually going, buddy, you have to breathe because that's what you're supposed to do. And then you're kind of convincing yourself, I don't need it yet. Because like you said, I think you said something about changing your ingrained beliefs. And I think that's one of your brain's things. Like your brain is there to protect you, to survive. And you should be getting air, but we know we don't need that air quite yet. And we have to overcome the brain in this case. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we have a set of things that we do, and again, always with safety and always with training buddies. But so if I give you time, obviously, usually people can relate a lot better to time.
Mm-hmm.
So we have dynamic breath hold, which is like, you know, how far can you go when you're moving, versus static breath hold, which is how long can you hold your breath when you're staying still. And obviously your static breath hold is much longer than your dynamic breath hold. So my static breath hold is, you know, 6.5 minutes. So that
6.5 minutes, you said, holding your breath static. Yeah. Wow.
And this is the thing. The way I can say that so flippantly is because I've got friends that can hold their breath for 10 minutes. So my 6.5 minutes is like
nothing, but that's your potential.
It's nothing to brag about, but I have more potential. Exactly. So I just let it go with the ego. It's like, I got friends that can hold their breath for 10 minutes. And that's what I tell people when they start at 2. I'm like, we all start at 2. You know, you'll be at 6 soon. And it depends how much you want it. So we read these science books, and they tell us that we can hold the old books used to tell us we could hold our breath for 3 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So freediving, we jump in the pool 20 years ago. That's what the books told us. We were holding our breath for 6. So straight away, you start questioning everything. You start questioning all the doctors, all the scientists, because if I got in front of a doctor 25 years ago, they're holding the textbook up and they're going, I don't understand how you can be, can you explain? You know, and then you start going, okay, maybe I've got to take more of the agency of my health and my own education into my own body. So that was a small diversion. But to go back to, okay, so our static breath hold, my static breath hold was 6.5 minutes. Then I know my swimming breath hold is my dynamic breath hold is about 4.5 minutes.
Mm.
So
dynamic, because now you're moving and expending energy. And static is you're just staying there static. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
So then you know it's going to be, you know, roughly half probably is a better. But then you start to say, okay, well, at 50 meters, I've only expended 25% of my potential, and then 25% of my breath hold, and 25% of my dynamic possibility. So, you know, just this little warning sign. That is the, you know, when you drive, you drive cars. When you drive a car and the first warning sign says you're 100 kilometers to go, do you need to find a service station? You're like, no, I'm good. 100 kilometers.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, I see the warning sign, but I don't need to react to the warning sign.
Ah, so the brain's is warning you you're running out of air. Now we're checking it, so not quite yet. Ah.
Yeah. And then this is from a human potential type conversation, is that those warning signs will get louder. Okay, that is true. And your connection to your body and mind must be so strong that you push as hard as you can safely on the day. Every day is different. And then you come up proud of what you've done. You want to have pushed because nobody wants to come up and have given up.
Yes.
But then we have what's called, you know, we have a whole lot of safety protocol in place. So people often think, wait, so do you just swim as far as you possibly can? And we're like, no, that would be insane. No, what we do is we train our bodies to swim as far as we safely can.
Yeah.
And then surface. And then we have to do the surface protocol, which is within 20 seconds. We have to, we're usually in deep water and we've got our feet sometimes in a monofin. So feet together or feet in fins. You've got to keep your whole body above the water, especially your airways. Okay, so if you have an airway dip, you're disqualified.
Right.
Because that shows loss of control. So you've got to keep yourself above the water, surface water, and then you've got to locate the judges. You've got to remove your mask. You've got to remove your nose clip. You've got to signal, I'm okay, and you've got to say the words, I'm okay. All in that order, all within 20 seconds.
Right.
Now, that's actually quite hard to do, especially after you've held your breath and pushed your body for a long time. So every freediver, competitive freediver needs to know that's probably, you know, 15% of your fuel. You need 15% of your fuel in your tank to get through the surface protocol.
Oh, wow. 15. That's quite a bit actually still.
Yeah.
So that's cognitive,
So
that's mental and physical energy all as one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And oxygen deprived.
Correct. Because if you don't do that, if you miss any of that, you're disqualified. Your whole dive is not counted. Okay. You got a red card. It's finished. You did nothing. So every freediver wants the white card because it's like, and then, you know, the ego sometimes speaks. People will say, oh, I swam, whatever. They'll say a big number. But they came up and had a loss of motor control. And, you know, to me, that's not a swim. That's a good training environment, and I hope you were safe.
Yeah.
But that's not a white card. So that whole journey has really helped me because I think we share a similar brain, not just the ADHD, but you're from an engineering background, but my background was business.
Yeah.
I studied business management, and, you know, I was very analytical and logical as well. And so I was able to then see all these crossovers and go, wait, I think with the human potential side, this is really interesting. And then the neurodiversity stuff is very, very interesting.
Well, I think that's really cool because when I kind of figured out where freediving is all about mental control, and with the ADHD research, I've been getting more into mindfulness meditation. I did karate for a while, and all about being present as much as you can, and just controlling your breathing makes a big difference.
Yes.
I said the freediving is going to be the next level because with the scuba diving, there's a certain level. I do have to tell the brain to settle down because your brain's going, you're underwater. You should not be here this long. Get up. And then you feel you can't breathe and you're going to panic. And then you got to go, hey, brain, no, I got a regular, I'm breathing, settle down. And then the brain kind of goes, oh, okay, then you're fine. But what you said in Peter's podcast, Peter Shankman's podcast, that really got me and I wanted to talk to you about was the pressure of the water. I'm going to use the term caressing the body because that's the term I was getting. I couldn't put into words why I enjoyed being at 60 feet as scuba, and everyone says, oh, scuba diving, it's not about the depth, it's not about bragging rights. But for me, and even my ADHD daughter, it was comforting to be down there. And then you put it into context by saying, when you free fall in free diving, you get to feel the pressure. So what is free fall, and what is so good about that comfort of the pressure, water pressure?
Yeah, so it's amazing. So probably for the non-diving listeners, I try and briefly explain it, like on the surface of the water, we have 1 atmosphere of pressure. And as a scuba diver, you know this well, but every 10 meters that we go, we have an additional atmosphere of pressure.
So another 30 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for the,
Yeah, 10 meters and 30 feet. Just trying to keep it kosher.
Yeah, but for both atmospheres.
Yeah.
Both hemispheres. Okay, and then so if I'm at, say, 50 meters, which is 200 feet, roughly, which is a deep dive, then the atmospheres of pressure is about 6 atmospheres of pressure on my body.
Right.
Now, so with scuba diving, because I have been a scuba diver, so I can give this difference. Because you're breathing air continuously, you don't shrink. Like your body doesn't.
Your lungs don't shrink, and some of your bodies. Yep. Because of the compression of the water.
Yeah, right. So in freediving, there is a noticeable shrinkage of your body, which is really interesting. To the point that, the scuba diving weight belts, they're the flat, and then they're hard material. Freedivers have totally different weight belts. We have stretchy rubber weight belts that get like wrenched on like a normal belt. Yeah, because the scuba diving ones would pop.
Yep.
And we would lose our weight belt at depth if we used scuba diving weight belts.
So you're actually going to have tight weight belts at the surface.
Very. And rubber, so they will shrink with us. So everyone knows that the lungs are going to shrink, or most people know that the lungs are going to shrink. But most people don't understand how much your waist and everything will shrink.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, cool.
So if you go deep, you can sort of put your hands around your waist. It's you start playing with that at first because it's so amazing what the human body can do, and I love that. So to go back to free fall. Okay, so we are positively buoyant at the surface. Yep. And one question people always ask freedivers is, do you wear weight? And we say, yes, we wear some weight. We want to wear the minimum weight that we can get away with to overcome buoyancy quickly, but bearing in mind, every weight that we take down, we have to swim back.
Right.
Okay. So that's the big weight question.
And then the water column adds more weight to you as you go down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're positively buoyant at the surface. You've got to fight buoyancy. You do a duck dive. Freedivers have some pretty cool stuff to get, into position quickly. So we do a duck dive, and you head down. It's the other thing with equalizing with scuba diving and freediving. Freedivers have to equalize head down, which is quite tricky.
Tougher, yeah.
But, and then once you head down, then you use your momentum and our big fins to start the start kicking, start descending. We aim to be weighted so that we're neutrally buoyant at about 15 meters. That's ideal. And then once you start hitting about 20 meters, once you've got a bit of momentum behind you with your kicking and the atmosphere, the pressure of the water and everything, you start dropping.
So about 65 feet. Okay.
Yeah. And that's free fall. Now, free fall is absolutely incredible. Free fall is riding the bus. So you've done the work. You're riding the rocket ship. You've done the work. You're going deep. But what you have to do is you have to let go. You have to let go. You have to surrender, or you're going to fight the water, fight the pressure, and you will never win. So if you can get your mind, you've got to tell yourself, well, everyone goes through different journeys, right? But me personally, I just love it so much. I don't have to go through the normal, I'm okay, I'm safe. I don't really have to do that. But I do need to learn to relax my body in different ways, because I learned through freediving that I hold a lot of tension in my body without even realizing that I do it. So that was
the body remembers at all costs. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
That was a big learning, because I would not have said that. I'm like, no, I can be in water all day, every day. I don't feel it. But freediving showed me
Mm-hmm.
I do, and I maxed out at about 50 meters. And if I want to go deeper than that, which I know I have the
150
potential
feet,
to,
150, 60 feet. Wow.
then I've got
Wow.
to address relaxation in my body, which
Yeah.
is more mindfulness.
Yeah. And that's more experience. And that's really cool. Because I tell you, when I come out of the water, like, so for me as a scuba diver, I think I'm starting to feel that pressure at about 80, 90 feet.
Yeah.
That's acting on the body. You kind of feel like you're pushing against the water when you're breathing. But the one thing I express, like, it's the only place that my brain actually stops.
Yeah.
Like for the ADHD brain to just stop, and everyone says, "Oh, it's because you're trying to stay alive. You can focus on one thing." So no, man. Like I've flown, I've done a lot of stuff that requires more concentration, but my head's still going at 100 miles a minute. But there it actually stops, where actually we'll stay at 20 feet and just stay there. If I can get another 5 minutes of that peace and quiet, like it's quite amazing. It's not that I don't regret my brain. It's just sometimes it's just nice to have it stop for once. And when I get out of the water, I start telling people, when you get that big hug from a loved one and that they squeeze you in the upper body, and then when they release you, that's the feeling you get. That's the ecstasy. Well, imagine that all over every square inch of your body, even between the toes. When I come out of the water, I get that relief. It's almost as though there's a great big hug. And that's a very comforting, great feeling. And I don't know if that's what you experience, something like that with the free diving.
It is. And that's actually a very funny thing, because I have always loved the pressure, but I didn't understand that about myself.
Exactly.
I didn't understand it. And then I would have other people look at me and they'd go, aren't you, like other freedivers even, aren't you afraid of going that deep? Like, isn't it scary? And I would say, no. And I started to understand something's different about me. Like, because I'm undiagnosed to this day. I'm
Yeah.
undiagnosed. And there's, just to give context to your listeners, I know I am neurodiverse because there's a lot of
Oh, we got
family reasons.
similarities. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, I know, and when I have the time in my life to sit there and go through all those appointments, I'll do it. But at the moment, I'm still working and doing 1,000 other things. So
Yeah.
I've found ways of coping. But yeah, the interesting thing is I started to realize when I talked to other freedivers, because they would say to me, but why don't you feel that pressure? And I'll say, well, maybe another way of looking at it is you can make friends with that pressure. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't need to make friends with it. Like, I loved it from the start. So I was very lucky. That's one of my gifts in life. I'm
Mm-hmm.
lucky because, like you say, going underwater is the only place that I've ever found where my mind stops. And I'm just like, I can be that, like a little kid. Like, I'm just looking and I'm looking at everything underwater. And like, it's
Yeah.
like, I'm so chilled out. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, is this how normal people are, where they don't have 1,000 things in their head? Like, maybe this is just what normal people experience every day.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. But then I realized, well, this is my cool thing,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's my gift. Freediving is my gift to myself, because I go there and I just have fun. I regulate, I self-regulate,
Yeah. I
I
really like that.
co-regulate with other freedivers. It's just fun. And scuba divers and spear fishermen, anyone that loves the ocean.
Yeah.
We share a same language. Surfers get it. We all get it.
Yeah. That's the one thing as a kid, I was always drawn to the water, but I never understood why, because I didn't like to do the traditional conventional water swimming and all that stuff. I knew there was a different tie, and I didn't get the appreciation until the scuba diving and just getting out of my head, out of trying to fit in with everyone. And the point I wanted to have with this conversation, Susie, is for you to share with the listeners about your experience with the free diving, because I learned a lot more. I'm way more excited now to do it. I'm trying to find an instructor here in Canada. And like there are ways to find quiet and peace from your ADHD brain. It's not that we want to get rid of it. It's just, sometimes it's nice to just have it shut off. It's a mindfulness practice. And whatever is your method to do that, figure it out. And I'll guarantee it always has a lot to do with nature, something that's nature related, because there's less stuff going on, there's less overwhelm, there's less noise. And that's a very important part. And I really like what you said here. Freedivers self-regulate. They self-regulate the mind and body. I love that twist. Um,
Yeah.
The finish line is not the end. It's a percentage of your potential. I think that's a huge shift in thinking on that. So instead of saying I'm 25% near the end, I'm only there 25% of my potential, which can grow with time and experience and practice, right?
And it definitely does. And freediving is a really beautiful sport for that, because I always tell people at the start of their journey, you get a notebook and you write down what you think is possible on page 1, and then you start just recording your sessions,
And
and
baby
it will
step it there.
blow your mind with what you can achieve, and you will fall in love with your body and your mind in a way that you never have before. And I think for us, anyone neurodiverse, that's really powerful. Like, I and not to go too deep, but I didn't like my body. I hated my body, and
Yeah.
and society would taught me that.
Yeah.
And then because I wasn't like, I wasn't like how I was supposed to be as a girl, and so I sort of got a bit, I'm gonna do it my way, and I just went off on my own path. But freediving taught me how to do it with beauty and grace, not just a "if you" attitude to the world. I'm gonna
Yeah.
fight until I can't stand anymore. And I did that for a long time, and I was, good at it. But I tell you, this new way of being, this soft, comfortable, happy, lovely, is a much nicer way to live. And that's really powerful for anyone who's battled with their body or their mind, or been told, like a lot of us were told stuff in childhood, which is not
Yeah.
helpful. So if anyone's carrying that, I can really honestly say freediving will help you. And you don't need to go into it saying, I'm going to be a competitive freediver. Almost
No.
no one does. It's not about that. The only reason I compete in freediving is because I like having a goal. And
Mhm.
it's actually the safest place to participate in deep freediving is the competition, because all the safety is in place.
Well, thank you for saying that, because I think you just put into context a lot of the listeners and myself. Is my whole life I've been a fighter because I really had no choice, either that or cower. And
Yes. Me too.
the scuba diving, the meditation, the karate actually had to do more with not being, finding different ways to no longer be a fighter and to be more self-accepting. And I really like that. So to finish it off, like you said earlier, stop tormenting yourself and enjoy yourself and enjoy the journey, because that way, if you're going to enjoy the journey, you don't need to fight. And
And
I think that's
we're
very
all better for it.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all better for it. If we can enjoy it, we're all thinking of like, and another analogy, I used to be a financial planner, and then people would always talk about the goal. The goal is retirement. And I used to just think, this is insane.
No, it's
We're
definitely an
living
end.
these,
Yeah.
yeah, we're living these day-to-day endurance events for this one day when we're going to retire and enjoy life. That's mental. We've got to
Yeah.
stop this.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, Susie, for joining us and sharing your experience here. And there's a lot here that I learned a couple more things. And yeah, that fighting thing, really, that context of the fighting, no longer need to fight because of these practices. And to you, the listener, have you been able to find some sort of peace or mindfulness, or even what can you find that would make you less of a fighter and start accepting yourself and enjoying the journey is very important. So Susie, thank you very much for showing up very, 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 very early in the Australian morning and sharing your experience.
You're welcome. And thank you, guys. Thank you, Andre, for the opportunity to have a chat. It's always
Always,
fun.
anytime, you're welcome to join me anytime. And to you, the listener, thank you for learning with me.
Thanks, guys.